Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hey, let that can crack be a note of things to come. Welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. And we are here to talk about a movie that felt like a goddamn fever dream in the best way possible. We are talking Deadpool and Wolverine. And as a little bit of housekeeping right up top, once you guys are done watching this episode, be sure you look over into our live feed on the YouTube version and come over to the YouTube channel if you're listening to this, because we will be going live tonight with our friends from the Comic Book Cast to talk about all of the big news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, everything from Vought Rising to Robert Doomey Jr. We're going to be talking about it all here on this channel live tonight. So be sure to come back through and watch our live San Diego Comic-Con news recap. But I am not alone to jump into the void and talk about this send-off to the Fox Marvel movies. I am joined, coming back in hot. Guys, his schedule is workable again. It is the one, the only, our resident Green Lantern Professor Travis motherfucking Grossman.
Not for long, it won't be. But you lined it up for the one movie release of the year. We did it, folks.
I know. I was like, I'm not doing another review without this son of a bitch.
I still haven't watched The Acolyte yet.
I was gonna say it's not like you're caught up on a lot is the thing.
Yeah.
Like I even had Sean, like Comic Book Cast Sean, hit me up. He's like, hey, is like Travis still on the show? I was like, yeah, it's just he's busy. He can't record and he hasn't watched anything lately. Like he's just like I don't even think you got through X-Men 97 yet.
No,
I
have not.
I know you were super backed up on The Boys.
I'm still super backed up on The Boys. I have not watched season 3 of The Boys.
Because I remember I asked you about Gen V and you were like, I haven't even seen season 3. So yeah, Travis is still here. The man's just busy. So I'm freestyling and cheating on him with Mitch from Comic Book Cast.
It's not cheating. I consent.
Listen, it's ethical non-monogamy over here, guys.
Exactly.
Speaking of a downright dirty cheat, we have the reigning champion of Epic Confrontations, host of Octo Radio and co-host of Anytime with Ken and Alden, the one, the only Thabor Sheems himself, Alden Diaz.
The proposal. Hello.
I just had my fucking
hello to my
my
favorite, evidently some sort of polycule. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
It's really nice to see this being worked out in real time. Extremely progressive. I hope none of you are canceled for anything that might be revealed later, and when our investigation comes back and yields results. Very happy to be here. Excited. I don't like to review movies a lot anymore. Not that this is going to be straight up review. This is obviously more of a discussion. If anyone who's new here doesn't know that, you know now.
Yeah.
Returning
I use
people
the term
obviously know
review
that.
very loosely. It
gets clicks
on thumbnails.
You're using it for SEO. Like that's the reality.
Yeah, it's SEO, and it fits easier in titles, and it fits easier in title and thumbnails. So it's a review. It's a discussion
for sure. And part of this is, I wanted to talk about it with you guys. You two specifically being, people that know this stuff, in a deeply passionate way. But also because this is not a very tweet friendly movie in the same way that Acolyte wasn't a tweet friendly television series. Like, I don't want to go talk about this in a limited number of characters because there's too many little things, and Deadpool's a character that requires a lot of table setting to talk about, which we'll get into. It's not like, oh, my thoughts on the Batman, because we all understand what Batman is at its core, at least on a base level. People do not understand, Deadpool. So that's part of what made me want to talk about it. And also, I was really jazzed. It sort of lit my Marvel fire again. Not that mine was out, but just because, like, even though I enjoyed the Marvels, and I think that they were, I don't dislike Quantumania, but like Guardians and Marvels was a great, like, yeah, like, we're rising, and then people like kept fucking just like being in your ear telling you like, "Oh, you're always gonna fail. It's over." Like, I was kind of like, ah. And then like I couldn't even really enjoy Echo fully because I was just like, is there even a community for this anymore right now? Like, is this even fun right now? But I've shaken all that off now, and I'm very excited to talk about this.
Well, we're
For a variety
excited
of
to
reasons.
have you, my friend. And if there's one thing that brings the life to the party, more than being excited to talk about superheroes and something that'll make you wear your red pants, it's Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. They also have their equally award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus if you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, especially with some rim salt if you're nasty. This former bartender swears by Sunday's Bloody Mary as the only Bloody Mary mix that can outperform a from scratch Bloody Mary. So use the link in the description down below and use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Normally I'd throw to our guest first, but Travis, you have not been on in a minute. So similarly to what Alden was just saying, how are you marveling right now? How is that feeling for you? And how are you feeling going into and then out of Deadpool and Wolverine?
I still have not seen the Marvels or Echo. And again, that is not because of. I feel like I have to justify the fact that it's not because they star women. It's because, like, in general, my media consumption's been very limited lately. And so, and like, I've been petered out of Marvel. Mostly the discussion around Marvel bums me out. And not because I agree with it, but just in general, I'm like, oh, wow, everyone's just not having
It's
fun.
taxing. It's
And it
fucking
makes it
taxing.
not fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I felt about Star Wars recently too. Like, it's in the same vein of like
Mm-hmm.
the thing comes out, everyone has the either end of the extreme. My favorite, the Wednesday, because I saw Deadpool on Thursday and I saw it on Saturday. And Wednesday, scrolling Twitter, seeing back to back greatest Marvel movie of all time, fun nonstop, up and down, to not just the death of the MCU, but the death of cinema as we know it. And I'm like, this movie has not hit public eyes yet. And people already have these opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of done. I put my phone down. I'm like, whatever I see in the theater. Can I be honest? I saw the Captain America Brave New World trailer for the first time in the theater this weekend.
Wow.
Like, that's how separated I've been recently. By the way, kind of excited for that movie now. That trailer rocked.
It's a pretty good trailer.
I was pretty happy about it.
Did you get the new edit that removes the presidential assassination because of recent events?
Probably, because I didn't know that was a thing in there.
There's a slight recut on the trailer where instead of showing Bradley pull the gun on Harrison Ford, it instead cuts to like him doing like a flip in a more of a fighting move.
I thought there was something missing in the trailer. I thought I was crazy.
No, they didn't want to offend.
Yeah, I believe that.
They didn't want to offend. Anyway.
God, the amount of things that have just like fully lost their mind to like depend. Like, I get it. I get why. And had what happened in Butler, PA gone differently, I would understand it. But like, it's on t-shirts. Like mild spoiler for you, Travis. Like, the title of this most recent season finale for The Boys was Assassination Run. And when the episode came out, even the fucking boys was like, the episode, the season 4 finale. Like, come on, like, let's chill. Like, the whole episode was a pastiche of January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna run away from Assassination Run, but it has nothing to. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
So that being said, I was pretty like I knew there was a lot of stuff coming out in TV spots. I don't know which cameo, but one of them was like on the marquee at SDCC for Deadpool. I don't know which one.
I think it was X-23 because they revealed that in like the final trailer.
The final
Okay.
trailer has her, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't like I kind of assumed I don't know, I guess I assumed she'd be in it, but like I didn't watch anything past the initial trailer. And I'm glad I saw it twice because the first time I came out of it, I wasn't low, but I was definitely like, I feel weird about what I just saw for a number of reasons. And seeing it again, I was like, no, okay, those are good feelings. We felt good about that. That was good.
Damn, look at Travis having measured, reasonable media.
It's because my base instinct is to be contrarian to everything I see, even though that's not healthy. And so when I see everyone be one end or the other on opinions, my immediate go is, okay, so I'm right in the middle. This is a solid C+, and we'll move on with our day. I'm higher on it now than a C+, but like it took me a minute.
I think that's interesting because I came out of the movie and I was trying to find the right words and it pissed me off the phrasing I landed on, but it was all I had. And I was like, it felt like a theme park ride. Like my first viewing was all like, I was completely enveloped in this was so cool. This was so cool. This was so funny. This was so clever. And like appreciated a lot of like I understand like big idea was trying to be said here, but like I was not there. Like normally first viewing, I'm like, oh, like I can walk through the themes and the big ideas. But on this one, I was like, I just had a shit ton of fun. And I made a point of seeing it a second time now that like I know what I'm going to experience, being able to go, these ideas were actually really poignant and at least struck a chord with me. And I found myself really appreciating this movie and and in a way that again was not just flash in the pan. And I think Multiverse of Madness, I think No Way Home have been unfairly given this reputation and this archetype of comic book movie that is like, oh, it's all cameos and things, and it flattens what the movie's trying to say with those guest appearances, and that's obviously something we're going to dig into. Alden, you.
Yeah. Oh, I think to your point about like the theme park ride element and everything, like I probably felt the most energized by a thing in theaters since maybe, God, I don't even know. Like I've had to, but maybe, but it's so different. Like I think the last time I got like truly rocked to my core in a movie theater was Dune Part 2 back in March. And it's like, but that's like Return of the King rocking, where I'm like the sweeping power of story, like the moving parables of our time. And then like before that, I would say maybe December with Godzilla -1, which is also very much that of like the indomitable human spirit and everything. I hadn't been like felt like I was at a concert rocked in a movie since this. And really I think the opening is perfect for that, which we'll get into like a lot of the needle drops and things and specific scenes with the in sync dancing with the desecrated corpse from 2017's Logan, which is just a wild thing to describe. So like I was like, I was moving my leg to the beat, and I was like, I found myself like kind of head bobbing in the movie, and like I felt really in it. I think because I had just watched 1 and 2, like a lot of people had. I sort of was like in the headspace already of like I know who Wade is, so, like I was picking up on that stuff. I think like a lot of people hyper focused on Wolverine in a lot of ways, because it was just such a risky proposition. Like the thing about Wolverine that was specifically risky, as opposed to every other time that we've done this, right? Like Han, Luke, and Leia come back. Okay, like that's crazy, but like there was nothing about 6 that told me they couldn't. You understand where I'm going with this? Like, Michael Keaton came back. Okay, but yeah, like a Batman would get old. All right, fine. Like Logan and Stark were the two that was like, okay, well, this is certainly packed up forever. And even Stark, it's a much different conversation because of variants and everything. But like, this was the standalone James Mangold prestige drama nominated for Academy Award for adapted screenplay, where he dies like a human dies and is buried by children that he liberated. Like, it was like so finished. And that was the whole idea of a retirement movie. Even Indiana Jones comes back in 4, and that is a legacy sequel because it had been the right amount of years. But there's nothing in 4 that tells me he's done. 4 is just putting the family together and finally getting married. 5 tells me that he's done. And we had that with Logan. And so it's like,
with a little bit of an asterisk, because like the last shot
he's still
was him picking the hat up of
he's so yeah. But Logan was done. And I think emotionally, once I realized that they were as locked in to Logan as I think a lot of us are about it, it became like, okay, like I could breathe a little bit and like enjoy the story and the theme park ride, because I worried that maybe, like, I had accepted, like we all had, like, oh, it's a variant of Logan, of course, okay, all right, and then we'll just have to ride with it. I did not expect the specter of the original version to hang over it so much in such a smart way. Of like, comedically, they get a lot of juice out of it, like having Matthew McFadden say desecrating a sacred corpse, or like whatever he says, like shit like that. But even down to like the actual emotional push for this Wolverine is seeing in Laura the effects of the other Wolverine.
Mm.
If he's the worst potential, what is the best potential? The actual fruits of it, walking around, the way it's affected the world, hearing about it, learning about it. What does that do? And yeah, we'll get into a lot of it, but I had a great experience with it. It's in my definitely top third. I'm one of those people where it's like my top 7 MCU films right now are pretty locked. Then 8 to 10 maybe start to shift in order. Then that 11 to 15, 16 range is like even more blobby. And then the bottom is pretty defined. Like, it's hard after a certain point, but like, yeah, I'd put this up there. It's like, I'm a big fan. Like, you brought up Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home. Like, I like these stories because we're all comic readers, right? So it's like, it's more built into how we process it. But like, this is not a lack of stakes. It's a different angle on stakes.
Yes.
Like, it's not like, Charlie Ashby from the Imperial Senate Pod. We've known each other for 10 years and we talk almost every day. And Charlie was like, I'm sick and tired of people saying there's no stakes. And the example he used was like, if somebody who looked like your father showed up and killed someone, yes, logically you would understand that that's not your father, but it would fuck with you. Like, it still matters for the characters in the world. Even, and I think what this movie does, what has done, to your point, Travis, about like everyone, like, it's the death of cinema, it's something that really pisses me off, which is litigating business instead of story and confusing the two. They are both valid to talk about. We could talk about the business. We could talk about the fact that people keep insisting that these things are falling off, and yet they're the only things keeping theaters alive. And like the tension in that and the anger in that. And I understand it. But at the same time, it's like, it's not fair to the stories being told in any of these multiversal things to just point out that that it's a company. It's like, okay, that would be like if anytime anyone ever cried watching their sports team win a championship, if you just like jumped in front of them and started yelling like the names of all the rich white guys that own the team. It's like, we're talking about different things. And ironically, I know I'm rambling, but ironically,
no, so I hear
this movie, more than any movie, because of the nature of the fact that the character is a part parody and that he is a parody of another company's character. So Deadpool was born a corporate statement. And then 2, or B, once again, forgetting if I was doing numbers or letters, he is a character that, as we all know, knows he's in fiction. When he's in comics, he knows he's in comics. When he's in games, he knows he's in games, etc. And here he is in this film, I think, giving some of these people their day in court.
Yeah.
Like he's active. He says things like "make Hugh do it till he's 90." It's just about the money. Oh, the multiverse thing. How often are we going to keep doing this? To do the sad clown thing of like, yeah, we hear you. We're gonna make fun of it too. And then they do that, and you've got people who shall remain nameless. You got people out there, critics, former trivia players out there saying, "Oh, it was self-congratulatory corporate, talking points." And it's like, when they were playing it straight, you didn't like it. When they were doing it for character reasons, you didn't like it. When they were explaining it on panels, you didn't like it. When they were trying it different ways, multiverse and WandaVision, and you never liked any of it. So then they finally gave you the version that's like, we know you don't like this, and that's wrong too. And I don't understand what will satisfy them. And it kind of makes me want to not engage as much as in multiverse saga discourse. I guess back to our original point, because Infinity Saga, I feel like that was simple. That was enough for the smooth brains. Collect this many things and then do a bad thing. And this is not that, and so we're kind of fucked. But the
Yeah,
movie's
and
good.
I saw your tweet the other day that was like, people keep talking about how every movie's been bad to mid, and same as you, we all remember
Oh yeah,
all of the
yeah.
movies that critically did not well, including the
Every
best MCU
phase.
movie. And the best MCU movie, Iron Man 2,
Iron
has
Man
like
2
a 5.
died on the cross for this discourse. Iron Man 2 died.
Not
And we
even
were supposed to
12
get
hours
over it.
difference, Travis. I was on Alden's Game of Thrones after show last night.
This
And
did happen. This did happen.
Somebody quoted Ivan Vanko in the live chat, and I brought up, I was like, this is so fitting because you and Travis are going to be on air tomorrow, and you are the only two people I know who go to bat for Iron Man 2 the way I go to bat for fucking Spider-Man 3 and Wild Wild West.
I've had now several times in my life where I've said that, and people don't know my whole opinion. I just stop at Iron Man 2 was the best MCU movie, and they're so polite. They give me like a side eye for a minute, and they're like, "All right, yeah, sure," and they just let me go. It's great.
No, Iron Man 2 fucking rocks.
It does.
That's all that was missing from this film was a little bit of Mickey Rourke. But
hey, but the mask, the shield in Happy's office.
Yes, so when he props up when he's making the, I was about to say tritium. That's from Raimi. I can't remember what his new element is called. Unobtainiums from those mid movies. What? I can't remember. It's obviously not adamantium, which we finally have an origin for in 616. Anyway, yeah, all of that to say, this is obviously why I wanted to come on this episode, because I have a lot to say about the cultural implications and what people misunderstand about Deadpool. And like I'll even go as far as to say this. There's a popular Bo Burnham Deadpool takedown that goes around every once in a while, and I think Bo Burnham is so right about so much of culture in so many contexts. I think he is so abysmally wrong about Deadpool, and it kind of blows my mind because Bo Burnham writing a Deadpool screenplay would kind of be perfect. And
that's
he was
funny. I've never seen that before.
It's a quote that goes around. It's only like a paragraph, but he basically says like something about a different topic, and then segues it and is like, oh, I don't even know if I want to say this, because I think he was giving it live, and he was like, I don't even know if I want to say this because fuck it, they're never gonna let me work on one of these kinds of movies anyway. He's like, there's something fucked up about a $200 million movie from a $1 billion corporation winking at you, and I'm like, yeah, that's not it, man. That's not what it's doing. It knows that we know. That's what the character is. And Gail Simone, who is a legend and obviously has written many comics at both big two companies, one of her early great runs was on Deadpool, and she said like he was described to her when she was coming up as, well, he's kind of like Daffy Duck but with like swords or like with machine guns, something like that. And she's like, but that's not it. She goes, that's the version I think we get tired of. She's like, what Deadpool is a stand-up comic doing his set during a mass funeral. But he is also kind of responsible for it. and like that's the character, and that's what I think this movie gets really well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh fuck yeah.
And all three of them have, like, to credit to them for still making it a cohesive trilogy, even though 1 and 2 are now like these weird, like, tacked on to the universe ones, which they kind of always were. But 1 being about like finding love and then reaffirming it with self-love, to 2 being like, okay, well, you've experienced loss, but can you help someone else out? And can you found family? And now this one being like, okay, how do you matter? By giving, not trying to receive, amongst many things. But I think it's very, very smartly done. And like when people talk about like, oh, these movies are just advertisements for the next movies, I want character arcs. It's like they keep doing it, man. Like they keep giving you arcs.
I love everything you just said on that front, and kind of staying on the confusing business with story thing that I know Alden, you and I get really frustrated with a lot, especially when it's people talking business who don't understand it. One of the things I love, and it is a rare moment where business and story intersect on the behalf of the storyteller, is the implementation of some of these Fox era characters.
Yeah.
And Richard Newby, phenomenal piece in Hollywood Reporter.
So good.
It was so good, and he put such a beautiful pin on it, and it's something that I really loved. With that, the movie is winking at us, and we're winking back at it while it winks at us for winking at it. Kind of like weird Ouroboros of fourth wall shattering or slightly tapping, as Nice Pool puts it. I really love the framing because, as Richard Newby just beautifully said, he phrased it better than I could, so I'm gonna fucking plagiarize him. That like it is this conversation about what stories matter and who gets to decide how and why stories matter. And like that was really poignant for me because I remember when I was a teenager, and I talk and this comes up all the time because the very nature of what this show is built on the back of most of the people you see on this show are people I talk to at a lunch table about this shit. This guy especially. And I remember like talking to people who like weren't all the way in and like, oh, well, how does this count? And like, is Wolverine going to show up in the Avengers? And like, I remember as a teenager saying, no, those ones don't count, and using that verbiage. And part of that is lack of a better term. Part of that is I've never been, I mean, this is changing for me lately, but I've never been as into the X-Men as I was the Avengers. And I remember just very, 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 very curt, very short. What are you laughing at?
Sorry. It's because you said that about X-Men and Avengers. It made me think of the when Cat Williams did the infamous interview where he poo-pooed everybody. Someone took the clip of him and they put it
I
on
know
top
what you're talking
of
about.
the Avengers versus X-Men cover. And it was like X-Men talking about the Avengers. And it was like, yeah, they have the better team and they have all the resources. But let us get on the line, Playboy. Like, and then we'll see what happens. And it's like that's.
I'm pretty sure I sent that to you at one point.
I watch it maybe once a week. It's so
funny.
good. Anyway,
but I remember having that very curt thing of like and like as I got older, understanding like if we don't have the Fox X-Men movies, which I always had umbrage with as a fan and as an enjoyer of these things and shit like Blade and having guilty pleasures like the Daredevil movie. There was this kind of moment of like, these don't count, but they exist and they're foundational in their own weird way. And I do really love the way that this movie very earnestly, and I think that's another part of like the Deadpool secret sauce is understanding that cynicism fucks up the recipe. That there has to be an earnestness there. That like it's like no, like we all deserve an ending. We all deserve to like know that our story was told in some way, shape, or form. From everything to Blade, who is foundational, to Elektra, who exists in this liminal space of being in not one but two oft maligned comic book movies, to Channing Tatum fucking Gambit,
Yeah.
which again, I fundamentally don't like using the triumphs of some stories to shit on stories I didn't much care for, but like you know looking at the Flash, like just as an example of when does it work and when doesn't it, and what are the differences
Mhm.
there. Like Nick Cage Superman falls flat because it's weird and it kind of comes out of fucking nowhere.
Yep.
And he's not given like he could be like Channing Gambit. I
Yeah,
feel like if he had dialogue or if it was like not
It was
de-aged,
actually Nick Cage.
like, yeah, like there's all types of things where it's like they're going for a very similar like let's talk about an era, let's talk about a time,
yeah,
because they're both at a pivot point where that it's the twilight of Fox Marvel and really almost all third party Marvel except for Sony Spider-Man. And then similarly with DC, it's like okay, they're in the dawning of the DC universe. And so this is a huge moment of change, and they both sort of had the same general assignment of like tip your hat. Obviously Barry can't know he's in a movie, but
yeah.
it is weird to see them sort of in close proximity.
But yeah, and but like it's the way that and again there is some of those very funny, like I don't even know how my story began. But it's so heartfelt, and it is like no, like even the stories that were never told deserve to end and deserve to be recognized as stories worth telling. And in the age of there's no stakes, the multiverse is cash grabs, the multiverse is this, the multiverse is that, like it yet again proves the insistence of no, like this is kind of the ultimate framework for telling a story about identity and about finding like what do you represent in a pool of like in this pool of infinitum, what are you and what can you be? And when you look and see that there's just endless possibility around you, you get empowered to go, I can be exactly what I want to be. And I think that's really powerful, and I think that's really beautiful. And I think that is the story. I think, and again, we have different flavors of this story being told across No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, and now
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool and Wolverine. And
Yeah.
I
and it's used so beautifully. Sorry, Travis, what were you gonna say about
No,
it?
you're good. I think this is the best this is the version that I think incorporates it the best into the plot and doesn't have it strictly as like a meta narrative almost, because it feels separated in Spider-Man in the sense that we the audience recognize who these people are and what they meant to us and how they
Yeah.
got us to this point, but they can't really recognize, like Alden said, they don't know they're in a movie. They can't recognize
Yeah.
that in the plot. So
Peter's not with us. Yeah.
yeah. So for Deadpool, like they literally, it is the central plot is that they're all hoo-haing about Logan being dead, and the thing that fixes it is the foundational material that got us to the point of getting Logan. Like I didn't I was also not very big into the X-Men as a kid. I didn't watch a lot of those movies, any of the Fox movies, but I cried when I saw Logan in theaters because I recognized what that meant,
Yeah.
like the Fox era. And then was rudely interrupted at the credits by a woman going, "Wow, that was really sad." Which I had a different experience in my showing of this movie that we can talk about in a little bit. But the like very baked into the, like you were saying, Jared, baked into the narrative of like everyone very like literally regards that scene in particular from
Mm-hmm.
Logan with such high praise that you need to recognize what all came before it to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And then we get that in a very literal sense by everyone we see in the movie. And that's really cool and good.
Yeah, I think it's just and a lot of it is like some people are never gonna like meta stuff. Some people are never gonna like fourth wall breaks, and
Yeah.
it's like that's fine. But I wish people would just say that. Like
Yeah.
that's
Right.
and
Yeah.
not to turn this review into a review of people's reviews, but like it just
Oh
becomes like
baby,
a
I'm ready.
well, just like fundamentally, the question a lot of the time is, like, we focus on this a lot lately on anytime talking about politics or just anything where it's like, well, what are we really talking about? And it's like, if you're a professional critic and you're like raging about how like this is the death of this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, first of all, it's not your job. Number one, you're not a business prognosticator. Like, you're supposed to be guiding me through a viewing experience and talking about story and talking about acting and whatever. But it just becomes like this rage at the corporation, and it's like, I'm sorry, dude, but like, it's sort of like, it's as useless as pointing out like, it's bad that so many Americans are constantly supporting like, Walmart and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, we agree, they still have to, or that's still what, what's there. It's like very like Twitter activism, like combining with film criticism to try to like get on something that like is being extremely upfront about what it is. Like, there's never been a single fucking illusion ever that this is not a money making venture. It's like how Joseph Scrimshaw on Force Center says about George Lucas in the 70s. Like, he did not found a Lucasfilm nonprofit. Like, he founded a film company, like, in the film business. So it's just like, I don't know. I think Deadpool is, for all its irony and all its snark and all of its like weird inverse, even in this one, like, there are jokes that are directly about the culture war now, with Deadpool parodying the most exaggerated reaction by giving the exaggerated reaction, even though we know he doesn't believe that. Like, when he says something is woke garbage or like whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he doesn't think this. This is not he is no longer just commenting, breaking through the fourth wall. He's breaking through the fourth wall and doing a parody on the outside, looking this way.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it gets even weirder. And you just have to like accept, like, if that's not for you, it's not for you. And people somehow can do that with like musicals, they can do that with horror, they can do that with other things, but like, because this is the biggest thing, and it is at this point historically bigger than westerns ever were and spy films ever were, it's like, we have to approach it in this weird bad faith all the time. And I really don't understand like what it's going to take. Like, we're at the point now where it's like, okay, we're reducing the output of these things, great, the VFX people are unionizing, awesome, amazing, like, we're in a scale back and everything, and it's like, congratulations. Like, I don't understand like what you want. And like, not that like I'm like some fucking genius of film history, because I'm not, but like, I've seen a good amount of movies this year, and it's such a very just colorful, like, flavorful list. And like, my top 10 so far this year, of which this is one, is so fucking like just wildly different. And I don't understand why people don't just pursue that, because it's a peaceful way to be. This like, I hate the Marvel movies and the like, to validate some other experience, like, for what? For Christopher Nolan type cinema, because he is a noted Fast and Furious stan. Like, the filmmakers seem to be able to enjoy everything. It's just online punditry that causes this like tribalist brain rot, which Deadpool talks about in the movie and is making fun of it. He makes fun of the anti-corporate stuff, which I loved. He makes fun of the meta narratives about Hugh Jackman. He makes fun of even tribalism amongst the companies with Cavalrine, which is like, the movie's packed with shit, because usually, like, if Cavill had shown up in a Marvel cameo, it would have been, and this is actually a cameo, he would have actually probably been the number one news piece. Here he's like barely being mentioned. People
Yeah.
are barely talking about the fact that there was a Henry Cavill Wolverine. And that makes fun of DC, but it's making fun of the old DC, not the DC
Yeah.
run by the guy that used to work here. So it's like, there's even that element of it. So I think the comedy in it, it works on so many levels, that is so clearly well intentioned, that I can't underimagine. I just can't. I said underimagine. I can't understand or imagine why
An educated
anyone would
bush.
approach it so cynically. I don't know. I don't
No,
get it, but
no, I'm right there with you, and like with regards to like a lot of the Wolverine stuff, like I think that, I personally think that, and this is a conversation I've had on this show, I've had with you, both of you privately. Um, that there's this weird idea that like when there is something that is great that just exists in a stratosphere of greatness, that it is now untouchable and unsurpassable, that we culturally stop even trying. And that has always pissed me off. It has always been like, I'm a hip hop guy and I hate that there are so many people who refuse to engage with, no, like there are people right now who are doing shit with this music that you couldn't do back in the day. And that's because of a lot of other, maybe quote unquote lesser artists who set up sounds for somebody to come through and like makes and do some crazy shit with. And I think we see that a lot in film, specifically with like adaptive comic book stuff, where like again, these frustrating conversations of there will never be another Joker as good as Heath Ledger. That conversation fucking infuriates me. No disrespect to Heath, no disrespect to The Dark Knight. Incredible performance, incredible film, but like why are we limiting ourselves to that? Well, we can never outdo Logan. There will never be another Wolverine as good as Hugh Jackman. There will never this, there will never that. I hate those conversations because this movie is proof that like not only can you do Wolverine after Logan, you can explore who this character is and like use a similar lens to Logan of my family is gone and what the fuck am I without him, and still tread new ground. Like
And
they
show
took the
like
same conceit. Sorry.
no, just building off of that. Sorry, I didn't cut you off, but like
There you
the pathos or pathos, if you will, of depending on
nasty.
if you're nasty. Yeah, exactly. It's like the the all the emotional weight and everything that it's building off of with Logan as a character is all there. And then again, like Deadpool does, it's like we're gonna sneak all that to you underneath the fun packaging of, hey, you know how for 24 years you've been talking about how Hugh Jackman is actually not a good physical pick for this role and like doesn't actually look like him? Here's the comic accurate one, and we'll do you one better. Here's the actual old man Logan that actually looks like it, not like the one even in the movie that you love, and we'll do you one better on that. You know, oh, blue and yellow wasn't enough for you. Here's orange and brown. Like they hit you with every fucking thing that you could possibly want right up
Orange
top.
and Brown got a wild crowd pop from me, though. Let me just say
Dude,
that.
orange and brown was hard. It went. I was like, oh, can we stay a little longer? Like, I just
Same.
want
That
to
was
look
my
at it some
exact
more. Like,
reaction.
I just want, and then like, you know, teeing up the Hulk fight. Yeah, that was John Cena running in to take out Solo Sokoa, 100%. But
Real
it
quick
was
on the
just
Hulk fight, I just
yes.
under discussed little bit that Wade has in that moment. The
Mm.
fact that he starts quoting Loki, beautiful. Like I've
Yeah,
not seen
yeah.
anybody point that out. It's like you pathetic, that monster beast, better, like
No, it's awesome.
and bats him into the tree to die, Logan style.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's fantastic. But yeah, so they give you all these versions and patch and you know whatever to be like, oh, haha, we're doing a greatest hits, right? Of all the Wolverine we didn't do, right? And then it's like, no, that's maybe what you thought this was going to be. And it is to a large degree. It is. We're still going to save different like big moments. We're still going to save the pulling the mask down. Like it is a shit. He's been doing this for 24 years and there's so much left on the table. Absolutely. But then like underneath, you know, like my favorite moment of the movie, to your point about like, who is he? My favorite moment of the whole thing, the thing that almost got me to roll a tear. I did roll tears for the record. I cried at the end when they're all big happy family, and then like you know the actual ending, and then the fucking credits, man. The credits destroyed me with the behind the scenes footage. But it's when he's by the fire and he's like, I'm not gonna go, you know, doing Wolverine shit, and then Laura comes out and talks to him, and he says, "You got the wrong guy," and she's like, "You were always the wrong guy." I was like, that's my fucking boy. Like I legit like reverted back to being like myself in 2004. Like it was just like that's the essence of the character. Wolverine is like if you could take the off-screen moment where Han Solo is about to turn back to save Luke at Yavin and take that energy and make it a really sexually aggressive tiny Canadian. That's Wolverine. He should constantly be in that moment of like, I don't want to do the right thing, but he's always going to.
yes.
And
Yes.
so when people try to tell me like you cash grab, it's like I resent the notion that it can't be both, quite frankly.
Yes.
And that's not me being like pro corp or anything, because that's such an easy Twitter thing to say, right? So you'll have somebody, let me actually pull it up. I will actually pull it up. I'm not going to name them, but I'm going to read it verbatim. This is not the reviewer that Jared thinks I'm talking about. This is somebody else. So somebody legit writes this shit, which like just absolutely blew my mind. So this person, this is a major film critic, writes Deadpool and Wolverine, or fuck ass fanfic the movie, aborted projects, Reddit posts, and the most annoying fan wishlist tweets you can imagine, all rolled into glorified clip show slop. One of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. No one deserves this. And then like there was replies from other people like, yeah, it just makes me sad that people don't think they deserve better. And then if you say that's really condescending and it's actually not saying much about like the elements of the movie, they would respond, why are you defending a corporation? It doesn't need you. Kid Feige doesn't need you to defend him. Is like that's their thing. It doesn't need you. And it's like, well, I don't think film criticism needs you, because I didn't see you say anything about character arcs. Like if you're telling me it's just aborted projects and clip show slop, and I retort with, well, what did you think about Wolverine's arc in this movie? You better have something to fucking say. Even if you don't like it, do not tell me it wasn't there, which is like the whole. Ironically, J.J. Abrams predicted all of this in 2009 Star Trek when he had Nero say the line, "It happened. Don't tell me it didn't happen. I saw it happen," about his timeline, because that's how I fucking feel every day. And I think that also predicted Nerd Rage with like reboots and stuff. But that's a different conversation. But it's like this movie is so earnest and so well intentioned. Like starting it with Vanessa and Wade being broken up.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? And it's just like, it doesn't come down to anything multiversal or any of that stuff. Like when it's about moving the characters forward to the next place, it's never about any of the big shit, because the big shit's just a metaphor. It's about you fell into a rut emotionally for whatever reason because you were not being fulfilled solo. Because as we all know from people that are in relationships or have been in them, you need both. You need to be fulfilled as a couple. You need to be fulfilled as each other individually. And it's like Wade was not getting anything. He felt rejected. He felt like it didn't matter. It ruined his relationship. That's a human story. Go to the villain plot. Cassandra Nova is this like, just like this, like, I don't want to say insert, and I don't want to say like any of the words that have been utterly ruined. But like, she's just this like, I can beat anything, sort of like over the top, sort of the way that like you imagine a bad writer would write Xavier. Like, oh, you shoot her, you kill her, you do all this stuff. Nope, boop, I'm alive. Ha 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 ha. Poke your brain. Ha ha ha. Like, she does seem like this villain that's like, how the fuck are we logically gonna like do anything, especially when it's like claw guy and swords guy. And then what happens? It's just if your brother had known, I know he would have come and helped you. He would have loved you. Trust me, because he loved me. Like, that's what gets her to, even kind of stand down and even like contemplate. Like, they give you this insane big villain that can't be beaten, just like they did with Thanos. And it's like, it's not about beating them. They didn't beat Thanos. Tony Stark laid down his life to remove Thanos. You can't pummel that into the ground. And I think all of the stuff is inherently really human, that like, even if you removed everything from this, same with No Way Home, it's just about a kid, crossing into the threshold of adulthood and realizing that he has to give stuff up. That's the core of it. Same with Multiverse of Madness. It's just about a guy who became a surgeon because he needed control in his life, realizing that like maybe that's not good. Maybe you shouldn't. You've already overcome your arrogance, but now you need to overcome this too. These are all human things, and I think that like Deadpool and Wolverine has more in common with like, which is not an original thought, but like people have said it's planes, trains, and automobiles. It's two guys on the road trying to learn about each other and themselves. That's why one of the best scenes in the movie is like the car fight, because the car fight comes from one of the like most like actively hurtful things I've ever seen a superhero like say to any other character.
You and I were talking about this, Alden. I have a lot of thoughts on what you just said, but just specifically the car argument into the car brawl.
Mm-hmm.
I said this to you, and you had the same theater kid instinct I had, and I know Travis is going to be in the same boat here. Like a lot of the jokes go this way, but this scene in particular hinges so much on Jackman's delivery, and the choices he makes with emphasis. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could watch this scene over and over again for like the moments that he like, and especially the way he emphasizes his curses. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is a very human, like that almost aside motherfucker, like it, like the way he hits that. Like I told Taylor, like coming out of the movie, and I said this to you, Alden, privately, where I was like, I can't remember word for word what Wolverine says in the car to Wade, but I remember how he said it.
Mhm.
And I remember how that made me feel as a member of the audience. Like, and especially that part of like the, you couldn't even maintain a relationship with a goddamn stripper. Like it is like the delivery on goddamn stripper is so full of piss and vinegar and bitterness and projection from Logan. Um, that whole car scene into the fight itself, just oh my god, just like Hugh Jackman made so many fucking choices here, and the amount of people who like were like, oh, he's phoning it in, he's phoning it in from the trailers, and it's like he's clearly playing, like all we're seeing in the trailers are the moments where Wolverine doesn't want to be the fucking Wolverine anymore, you dolt. Like, yeah, it looks like he's phoning it in. He's sad, you stupid son of a bitch. Like,
The choice to just make him the constant straight man at every moment to Deadpool's ridiculousness is maybe the best comedic choice they could have made. Like he brings up 3 different times the fact that he got someone killed that they barely
yes.
met, and it's like I don't know how deep we want to go with spoilers about
Oh,
who,
all,
what, when,
it's
where,
all on
why.
the table. It's all on the
All
table.
right. The fact that he says you got Johnny killed like 3 times and he has no idea who the fuck Johnny is. They just met like 20 minutes ago, but he's this upset about it to mention it 3 different times because it like
Johnny, man.
affected him because he's just a
Yeah.
person. Also, that got a very loud yo, not out of me, but out of someone back in my like my second showing, I think.
The reveal of Storm, of Johnny Storm.
Someone realized. I mean, like, I think a lot of people realized it before he actually said it.
Yeah.
But like in the lead up, so like someone caught it like just in time during a quiet moment, like the music fades out and he went, "Yo, flame on!"
Flame on! That's so well because they have that moment and they tee it up so perfectly for when Human Torch shows up. That like most of the footage Wade is seeing inside of that TVA facility is all of Captain America, and it primes the audience so well. And they even have like a little bit of red in like the bracers on what Johnny's wearing that you for a moment think it's gonna be Captain America, and he even looks more like Nomad than he looks like Human Torch. But as we were watching, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe fucking Chris Evans is here. And then, because I saw it was me, opening night, it was me, my girlfriend Taylor, my brother, and his girlfriend. And my brother, named Logan, Logan was like, oh, fuck, that's Captain America. And because he was like fucking like 4 when the goddamn Fantastic Four movies came out. Not even. No, he would have been exactly 4, actually. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, so like, oh my God. And then Taylor's the one who went, that's fucking Human Torch. And I went, oh my God, you're right. And I'm like getting ready. And then, and I'm like, trying, and like, well, and as I'm watching my brother explain to his girlfriend that this is Captain America, I'm trying to like, wait, I think it's Human. I think it's Human. Flame on! And then Logan went, whoa! And then like had a moment of like normal person who doesn't eat, live, breathe, and die this shit. Went, oh wait a minute, he was also Human Torch. It was so fucking fun.
I don't think I would have caught it because I caught it pretty early. Like I couldn't recognize his accent when he had the hood up because I'm not used to hearing Evans talk with a Boston accent, even though he does kind of have one.
Yeah.
So when he dropped down, flips the hood back, I'm like, okay, this can't be Captain America. And I don't think I would have realized it if Rise of the Silver Surfer hadn't been my like favorite movie as a kid for no reason.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Oh my god, wait a minute. And I did I'm there with Lexi and my friend Zach's on this side, and I'm like, oh my god. And in the same way I did, but in the positive, because I also realized what was happening in the Flash scene with Nicolas Cage Superman well before they showed his face.
Yeah.
And I had a very vitriolic reaction to that. But this time it was positive of like, oh my god. And I couldn't say it out loud at the packed theater.
No, our crowd, we had a good crowd for that type of stuff. And this is not a really good movie going area. We don't get a lot of stuff here. Not a lot of nerds from what it seems like. But yeah, people started to put it together, and you could hear people kind of like, like kind of whispering a little bit. And when he took the hood off, but like didn't immediately throw a fireball or do anything, it's like time slowed down, and I could feel like my writer brain kick in, and I was like, oh, they're gonna do the bait and switch of the catchphrases, aren't they? Like that's, and then Deadpool was like, God, say the thing, say it. And I was like, oh my, like, I just felt like I was like ascending. And then like knowing again that like, you know, your real world brain and your fan brain and your critical brain, they all start to clash. But like I did have those momentary thoughts that would take me out of it of like, oh boy, like is this gonna be one of those things that like is really a cameo and then like adds to this fucking dumb criticism? But like once again, I would say outside of, you know, an argument can be made about Happy. It's a long scene, but like, you know, whatever. Yeah, I'll even give you Happy. Like these are all characters. They are all a part of the story. They have an expressed want. Laura has an actual thematic impact, you know, like even the least of them, Gambit, is still in the first of two major sequences of the entire movie. So it's you know,
I was so ready for Gambit to die immediately. I was so, because it felt so teed up to be like, and now it's my time. I finally get to show what I'm about. Boom. I
thought he was too, and I'm glad they didn't. Like
me too. Yeah,
he like his full power.
And then
set,
they let him actually
costume,
be like the most efficient on the battlefield too.
Yes, yeah,
he was
like
the coolest dude ever.
The staff and like it was like they really were like, okay, we might not get to do this one. Because look, I don't think that Gambit or Wolverine are gonna be in whatever the first lineup is for, nor should they be. I don't think. Not saying it needs to be a perfect original 5. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a purist in that way, but I do think like it would probably behoove them to have a different roster than the Fox Films and 97, in whatever way they can. So I think it was like, hey, you know, we might not see Gambit again in movies until like the 2040s. So it's like we might as well just like lay it all out there and do it as straight up as possible, but still giving them sort of the, you know, the emotional thrust to want to be there of like they're all outcasts like Cassandra or like we saw in Loki with Sylvie and these different characters of like they don't understand why they got victimized just for existing, really. Like, oh, so you're telling me like my time is wrong? Like that speaks to what we touched on with, you know, Richard's article in the Hollywood Reporter. Again, Richard Newby, if anyone's, you know, wanted to look for it on, I can always send it to you if you hit me up or whatever. But it, you know, about who's allowed to tell stories and whose stories are allowed to matter, whose stories should be told, who gets to highlight what. It's like Richard points out in the article, like Elektra is there from the two that got hit the hardest by far. And you know, and like we have Daredevil director's cut truthers out there like me that know that Daredevil director's cut is one of my most inflammatory. I'll put it here on TNAP as an exclusive. I've tweeted it. No, I don't even think I've tweeted it. I maybe texted it. My most inflammatory opinion about early comic book films from the 2000s is that Daredevil director's cut specifically, I would take over all 3 Raimi Spider-Man movies in a fucking heartbeat. It wouldn't even take me I would do the nut fucking button like immediately.
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
Thank you. And if it had been
Almost played the
released,
KNR intro for any eagle-eyed viewers who saw that play for a split second.
I wondered, but I didn't wasn't going to question it. But yeah, it's like yeah, if it had been allowed to release in theaters. But anyway, that's a different rant. But yeah, the way that they were all implemented, even like Evans, like for comedy, doing a post-credit scene that makes jokes in the movie funnier by revealing that Wade was being truthful in what he was saying. He was exactly repeating it. It was great. Just in terms of like the filmmaking and the writing, it did feel like there was, in a good way, a little bit of like getting away with something energy, which for some people, Wade draws too much attention to, and I get that, like tying Disney into the pegging jokes, tying Disney into the cocaine jokes. Like, it is a lot. And I get that this is not for everybody comedically. And there are even some jokes where I was like, all right, let's move on to the next one. But they never leave you without a joke long enough to be bummed. Like,
Can I
if
ask you
something's
about a
not
joke?
funny, you're like, okay.
Can I
Please
you
don't ask
a
me
joke?
about the Blade joke.
It's a joke that Blade makes, but it's not that one.
Okay, go on.
Which is a moment I can't stop thinking about hearing Wesley Snipes say that.
Yeah.
And the way he says it.
Yeah.
Because first of all, that joke, it has the context of Blade's, like, it's framed as though Blade thinks Deadpool just said that and he sounds confused.
Sure.
But Wesley Snipes' delivery is just so confounding that I won't ever stop thinking about it. How do you feel about there's only one blade, there's only ever be one blade?
I love it, and I'll tell you
That's
why.
a moment in and of itself, but the way it cuts to Wade making a face at the camera with his mask on, because you can't tell what the face is. You can't tell if that's Wade going, well,
no,
because I know who Mahershala Ali is.
No, I love the joke, and it's because of everything you're saying and more. That joke is so good because it's funny if it's true and that movie never happens. It's funny if that movie happens and it's great. And it's funny if that movie happens and it's not good. That joke will always have staying power. And that's why it's funny. Like, if that movie never happens, then it's just Deadpool being like, yeah, we fucked that one up. If that movie, happens and everyone loves it, it's like, ooh, he doesn't know that he's about to be everyone's least favorite or, second favorite. And if it happens and it's like, it's not good, then it's like, again, we fucked that one up. Like, it just, there's no way that doesn't work. Whereas, like with all things, there are some jokes where it's like, okay, in 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when there are a bunch more Disney princesses, will a build a snowman joke be as funny? I don't know. I mean, Frozen has staying power. It's been already 10 years or 11 years since that movie. So it's like, maybe I'm wrong. But like, there are things like that, that like someone made this point about Force Awakens once where they were like, in 20, 30 years, when there are like double the Star Wars films and many more hours on TV, stopping on Finn holding the training remote in 7 will be weird to kids because they won't understand why he's stopping on it. Like, because it's like, for us, that was like a recent, like, there's a single digit number of movies. And it's like, New Hope. And they'll be like, fucking training remote. Yeah, I saw that in 9. I saw that in Acolyte. I saw that in, like, so some things just slide, in terms of our perception. But the Blade joke, I think, holds. And I think that's the thing. That's the thing about the jokes is that, like, that's what I was saying is that, like, just to finish that point,
Sorry.
No, you're good. But just like the overall point before we get too far from it, like, it's the joke batting average is so good and it's so relentless. There's so many of them that even ones that you're like, what? Or I didn't get all of that, or people were laughing, I didn't hear it. Like, you're already in the next one, but it never feels like we are incapable of having real conversations.
Yeah.
Like Wade talking about, the bring out the picture and like everybody, like, there's still enough like humanity in it that the jokes make sense, and the characters that are more just to be funny are used very well, like Blind Owl or Paradox.
Well, I was going to say the other element to there's only one blade joke is the fact that he already is wrong. like barring
Oh yeah, the live
Mahershala.
action.
Like Blade House of Chthon is a thing.
Well, what about the Spike show? Is that what that is?
Yeah, Blade House of Chthon. Yeah.
It was called that?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't just called Blade?
I had a Blade 4 DVD pack that had Blade, Blade 2, Blade Trinity, and Blade House of Chthon. And
Are
that's
you
how
sure
it
this
was
isn't
labeled
a
originally.
situation that, see, this would be a Schmodown challenge. I mean, that's not a movie, so it wouldn't be. But the
It was kind of framed
Blade.
as a TV movie, so maybe it was like a TV movie pilot for a Blade
Okay.
TV show.
All
But
right, here we go.
it came packaged as Blade House of Chthon.
I think that's what it is because I just looked it up. It is Blade the series, 13 episodes, and the first one, yeah, is a 2-part pilot called The House of Chthon. That's what it is. But the show is called Blade. But they might have just thrown the pilot in or used that subtitle in the same way as, my favorite Schmodown challenge of all time is that there is no movie called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. There is no TV movie called Blade House of Chthon. But regardless.
No, the Raiders one hits me in a specific way because I lost a round of the Blockbuster home board game over
On that same question.
calling it Indiana Jones, and they were like, "Oh, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark." And I'm normally the one who gets yelled at for getting too anal about movie titles in trivia games. And I watched my whole family of normies challenge me on that, and I almost burnt the fucking house down.
You deserved it. But yeah, he is already wrong on that
me
point.
play Blockbuster knows how heated I get during that game.
I think we went for like at least half an hour on one buzzer round, right?
Yes.
We weren't playing with like the actual buzzer. We just went till one of us couldn't, but we went for a long time.
Well, yeah, because I think it was Joel and Levi, and the prompt was movies with a race in it. And it turned into...
Oh, no, that's not even what I was talking about.
Oh, no, because I'm still mad about that.
No, that was just comical.
I still want to fist fight Joel and Levi individually for the way they defined race.
Yeah, no, I think ours was like movies with movies that have won Oscars, but it didn't specifically say like won Best Picture, and we made the incorrect decision to just say if it's ever won an Oscar in any category, and we just kind of had to die on that hill.
I don't know who was involved in that buzzer round, but if it went for that long, I was definitely one of the people.
It was you and me. No, it was you and me.
It was you and me.
Yeah.
That sounds so... God, we owe everybody who was there an apology. Maybe I shouldn't be as angry about them deciding that the Guardians and Ronan the Accuser were racing towards the Power Stone, and therefore that constitutes a race.
Races Against Time are a part of
Shut the fuck up. That is
cinema.
not an opinion you actually have. You are only saying it because I don't have it.
I don't have an opinion at all. I am just analyzing genre.
You're the worst.
I'm also 6-0 on you in trivia, so maybe you should know your role and continue your review.
Brought to you by... Let me get the book out because I don't think Travis has seen this, so this will be a fresh laugh. Brought to you by How to Win at Trivia, a book written by Bronson M. Ulysses. Learn the one weird trick that helps you win at trivia like Big Chungus.
That's us. Anyway, Deadpool. Yeah, loved all that with Blade. I think he's great. He's very funny.
Detail the Loki Midnight Suns lineup we got.
I mean, we didn't really get a Midnight Suns lineup.
I mean, enough of one. I've seen the internet decide that Midnight Suns is any group of heroes who are like vaguely street level and supernatural adjacent in some way, shape, or form.
But this is just Blade. Blade has also been an Avenger.
Well, Elektra.
Well, Elektra...
You can make an argument for Gambit and like some of the circles he's run in.
Maybe.
Wolverine has been in the Midnight Suns, so that extends it to X-23 as well.
I don't buy it. But I do think, obviously, that we're sitting on a fucking gold mine of Midnight Suns in actual, in its proper form of You have Gael Garcia Bernal, you have Mahershala Ali, you have Oscar Isaac. Like when they put that together, it will be the pound for pound strongest acting ensemble they've ever done.
Agreed. But yeah, do we want to talk about like the resistance in the void? Because I really like that lineup of characters a lot. I think it was a really like I think it was like a solid lineup.
It's also thinking about like within the context again, as Deadpool asks us to think about the real world. It's also probably one of the better lineups they could put together with what they had access to. Um, you have to think like, okay, Hugh Jackman is the Fox X-Man from that lineup in this scenario, so they're represented. We don't need Marsden, we don't need Halle Berry, as much as they could have been great, I'm sure. Like these are people that we revisited in Days of Future Past. We don't need to do them right now. We got to revisit someone from over here. All right, well, it's not going to be Ben Affleck, for whatever reason. I'm sure they asked. And there were rumors about it for a while, but instead we get a great joke about him being dead, that his version has been killed. And then Jennifer Garner reacts to it, which is very funny. And, it seems like they're cool with each other, which is great. But so she kind of represents that. And then like in terms of like projects that never went forward, Channing is kind of the main one that you would want to go to, especially because he was in the Comic-Con photo from 10 years ago and like with their slate of movies. So it's like it felt like they represented all of the groups really well. I do wish that the Hulk stuff wasn't tied up in Universal, because it would have been nice for Banner Hulk to be there as well.
I'm still so curious as to what that is, because if that is the case, they could have had Banner Hulk in there.
But it's a Universal thing, not a Fox thing. That's why. I'm saying I wish Hulk wasn't tied up in Universal, because
I thought you were
just because
about
that movie. Well, just because that movie is of the same time and carried the flag, with Elektra and with Daredevil in those movies, it's like he should be there, but it's a Universal thing, and they're not gonna. There's not enough in it for them to make a rights play and buy it out, because they have a nice little piece, like we can use them whenever we want, as long as we just don't call the movie Hulk. They're doing a Hulk sequel. It's called Captain America 4. Like it's gonna have Red Hulk and Leader. Like, you think Bruce is not gonna be at least somewhat involved, like, or at least call, like, So it doesn't behoove them to try to make a Hulk play. But other than that, I felt like we represented the whole era pretty well. I like that Johnny mentions Reed. It's like, yeah, it would have been nice to see him, but I don't think they want to like. They've already done Krasinski. I don't think they want to like bust the Reed nut anymore with Pedro's debut so close.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anyone that you were missing in particular that you would have?
No. I just wanted to hear how we were feeling. But like, I really liked it. If I have one minor quibble, and I told you this, Alden.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's just like really specific weird choices that are made with like characters' loadouts. Like, I hate that Blade only has like a fucking machete.
Travis, did you get the whole loadout conversation already?
No, I have not.
Because I know that Jarod recycles, and I do this too, recycles conversations amongst all people in his life that will care.
Just like I have this, I do this too. We're all here. Yeah. But I have a talking point, and I have to cycle it to like 3 or 4 people I know will at least give me something back.
Exactly. Yeah. Who would have any like? So I already know that he's about to say it now on air, so that counts for everybody watching and listening. But I know Taylor's heard this, and I know I've heard this separately. So this is something that Jared's been thinking about for days. And when you hear what he's about to say, it is the most him shit of all time. Go on.
He should have had the Daywalker sword. It's goofy that he had a machete and not his actual sword.
But he does have that machete. That's in the trilogy.
Sure, it's not his iconic weapon.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's not like they just gave him something else. He has the whole loadout except the sword,
which is silly. It's like it's like if somehow there was like a Star Wars version of Battle World, and the version of Han Solo that was plucked onto the Star Wars Battle World didn't have a DL-44, he had a fucking E11. It's like,
now see that I would notice. I had no idea about the sword.
Like it'd be weird if Han only had a stormtrooper rifle and not like the iconic heavy blaster.
Hold on. Just to lawyer you for a second. Those aren't the same thing because Han doesn't carry around a stormtrooper rifle. Blade had his whole loadout here except the main sword. You're making up a Han Solo loadout so that this works.
But it's not his main weapon. I can't think of a single scene off the top of my head where Blade iconically uses that weird like half machete.
There are scenes, man. Just like the weird Beyblade looking vampire batarang shits. Like,
and I love the vampire batarang, and that's
those are in it.
Because my thing was
Blade also has in Trinity. You'll recall that Patton Oswalt invented what is essentially a lightsaber bow, where the bowstring like has like the heat of like the fucking sun or whatever. It can cut through vampire. Like, you should have busted that thing out. That thing was fucking cool.
And I was willing, and I told Alden this. I was like, I'm willing to go because they all basically have the same story of the TVA went, hey, prune. And I'm like, okay, maybe Blade answered the door and he didn't have the Daywalker sword. He picked up the thing closest to him. But he has a full complement of like vampire batarangs. Give me the fucking sword. Very minor quibble. My other minor quibble about Wesley Snipes' Blade. And Alden and I had a very funny conversation, and he unlocked a thought I had that I didn't fully like develop. Because Alden brought up when we were talking on opening night about how in the lead up, and Travis, you and I have had this conversation about how much I fucking hated Michael Keaton doing his like say the line moments in The Flash with the I'm Batman, let's get nuts.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Put some gusto into them. He did better than that.
No, he didn't. No, he fucking didn't.
How dare you?
He did wish fine. He had gusto. The movie around him did not do him any favors.
Yeah, but Jarod makes it sound like Michael Keaton read this shit like on an iPhone notes while sitting on the toilet.
He did.
I would firmly believe that they like just showed it to him on an iPhone and was like, here you go, here's the scripts.
But Alden was right that I had a big reaction to some motherfuckers are still trying to ice skate uphill. And I like, again, massive crowd pop for me for hearing motherfuckers ice skating uphill.
Everything regarding Wesley Snipes' Blade, I was like, Jared's getting a huge kick out of this. In the same way that the Enya line, we saw it with Mike the second time.
And I thought of him immediately with the Enya shit.
Oh, when he reacted how you thought he would. Just he tried. He was respectfully not. He wasn't disruptfully loud because it was a quieter scene. But I looked over at him and he was trying to fight it. He was like,
it's a pretty like I don't know how to phrase this. Like, obviously, like, you know, the language of like flicking the bean is like not something they invented, but like I think it's a phrase that like it doesn't even get into a lot of R-rated movies. Not because it's so bad, but because it's such a particular phrase.
Yeah.
It's such like an old school thing that like for it to rear its head out of nowhere in the middle of this like comic book romp, I was just like, I didn't know comic book characters knew that phrase.
Yeah.
I was not familiar with your game, Cassandra Nova.
I love her, by the way. I love her in the way a man loves a woman. I will just say.
Agreed. But the thing, I sent Alden a text that I would never tweet about that.
It was gross.
And we're gonna read it live on air.
What I said was not gross about the actor. The phrasing was very Deadpool. But the one like quibble I have with Blade is that they have a callback to my favorite line of dialogue in a Blade movie, a line that Travis unfortunately had to hear in the Epic Confrontations Geekverse match, where in Blade Trinity, Dracula asks Blade, "Are you ready to die?" Which in the most Wesley Snipes way, Blade responds, "I was born ready, motherfucker."
Hell yeah.
And when Deadpool is like, "Are we going to do this?" And he says, "I was born ready." And I was like, and I was just kind of like getting edged, waiting for him to say motherfucker. Like I needed the release of "I was born ready, motherfucker." And I needed to hear it. And here's some Jarod deep cut. The reason why I think that's my favorite line is because after I got into the Blade movies when I was in the 8th grade, I found out that there, as I am to do, because I am nothing if not consistent. Um, there's a rap song about the movie in the credits, so then I became obsessed with the song. And they had RZA had a song called Lethal that's in the credits, and the beginning of the song is the Blade, ready to die. I was born ready, motherfucker. Um, and it just makes me so happy. But I was just so sad he didn't say motherfucker at the end of that. But it was redeemed by some motherfuckers are still trying to ice skate uphill. Just loved it.
I'm trying to find my. Also, it was the fact that the line is also kind of changed, right? Still trying to ice skate, I think, sort of like adds a little bit less of a like it's like less of a repeat quality in it.
Yeah.
Not that Michael Keaton's Batman line could have been like, you still want to get nuts, like that wouldn't have made sense. But
Yeah.
like,
Let's get nuts again.
like we're gonna get
and
nuts
somehow
here.
I think I would have enjoyed that more.
Yeah, I'm
Michael
trying
Keaton,
to
somehow the nuts have returned.
I'm trying to find my favorite line because I bookmarked it just so I could have it, and I should have brought it up already. But there is a line delivery in this movie that is so buck wild. The line itself is buck wild, but the delivery from Channing Tatum is just.
Is it my daddy's nuts?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the exact wording.
Right onto my daddy's dick ready.
Oh yeah, like it says. It's so good. I'm too high for this. He says, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, he ran them." It's so.
I see Alden laugh a lot. I can't tell you the last time I saw your face turn this shade of red, bro.
It says, "Yeah, he ran them buttery nuts all up in my mom." And I shot there and I said, "What's up, Doc?" Oh, Channing Tatum, you are so fucking funny, man.
Sensational. And that's his word.
Buttery nuts all up in my mama, and I shot out there and I said, "What's up, Doc?" That, like, I know that Gambit was like a focal point emotionally of X-Men 97, and like his sacrifice will live on forever, yada yada yada. But I shot up there and said, "What's up, Doc?" might be better than maybe anything ever. I think that might be the greatest Gambit moment of all time.
They also just like I love that the joke of Gambit's accent is never Channing Tatum, you sound stupid talking about this. And
No,
it's
it's
like the
just
sincere
these are how
reaction of,
people react to all Cajun people.
yes, that it's like this is what it's like talking to like friend of the show Bill Sheehy has a character he will do called Bayou Bill, where he just like goes, "Oh yeah, baby, I'm coming up to Bombay Cares, oh yeah," and I can't do Bayou Bill because if I do Bayou Bill for more than 5 seconds, it turns into fucking Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Scotty, who of course is from Baton Rouge and everything from the Bombad cast, he came out of the movie and was like, "I understood everything Gambit said."
But like, I'm sorry, who the fuck is your dialogue coach? The Minions?
Pretty great.
That it might be one of my favorite one-liners in the whole Deadpool trilogy. Because again,
That
it's
was really
all
good.
in the fucking delivery. It is all in the delivery, and that just gut busting.
This movie was funny, man. This movie was really
This
funny.
movie's really fucking. Funny.
We didn't talk about Peter. Peter is used excellently in this film. Everything from being coworkers, like they were after X-Force, and like Peter believing in him, and like having the suit, like really just being a tried and true friend, and then the fact that he ends up being like, I don't know if they use the phrase, but like a Nexus being is basically what he is. Like,
Yes,
there's always a Peter, like, and
Every
him
Deadpool
meeting.
has Peter.
Yeah, him meeting B-15 and them starting to flirt with each other, and like Peter Poole, and all that was really wholesome. And all that stuff with the third act on sort of like that, just like generic city street. The way that I talked about it earlier, like when Wolverine pulls the mask down, I popped hard. That was like just really, really, really fucking cool. And the fact that final fight is shot like a side scroller.
Yes.
I think was really neat.
As you were saying, Alden, before I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Yeah, just the way that was shot was great, really satisfying. Even at one point, like Wolverine just kind of losing his patience, grabbing a Glock and just blowing someone's head off, like, and then immediately going back to the claws. Like, also, like we talked about aesthetically in terms of tone and everything, all these things and these different costumes they were able to do in terms of like checking all the Wolverine boxes that hadn't been checked in 20 plus years. His physicality is also that way too. Like he goes to all fours when they fight in the void.
Yeah.
And like he immediately goes to all fours there, or like the different stances, or like obviously the big superhero landing pose that Deadpool ruins. They come out of the glass and it's like Wolverine shit you never thought you'd see, especially with Hugh.
Yeah.
And it was all really satisfying, and they matched all that with meaning. And I like the way that Deadpool even says it's a MacGuffin. Like, yeah, like so this Time Ripper, like it is, a pulpy sci-fi TVA device, of which there are many in the Loki show. And I liked how this expanded the TVA and showed that, like, yeah, there are people obviously that got on board with the new vision, like OB and Mobius and B-15, but like you're always gonna have some prick that tries to cover what they're doing. Yeah, hold out for the old ways. And so it's like I like that story, but the way it results, it was such a simple, like sometimes obvious is fine, right? And like one of you does this and you'll die, and yet Wolverine wants to be the one to do it for his reasons, and Wade wants to be the one to do it for his reasons. But we know Logan can't go because the entire point of bringing him here was to re-anchor this world in whatever way that's true or not true. I don't know, but like that kind of feels like a thing that they could also be like, well, Paradox is full of shit, and he was just doing what he wanted to do anyway.
Or just Paradox was wrong.
Or just Paradox is wrong.
Because he is wrong for most of this movie, And
yeah, he's wrong about several
things. This, like, one of the things I loved about Paradox, talking about my own, like, saying these movies don't count. I think in many ways, Paradox does represent like the MCU, like the cynical MCU diehard.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh, well, you can't get better than Logan and don't even bother. Like, I also like his
come over here and be a part of real heroes. Be a part of a real, like, after they made you wait 6 years. Like that's the thing, is that Wade got rejected and now they come crawling and are like, okay, well, we'll let you in, but not the rest of your, friends or anything. Like, which is sort of the meta narrative of like, well, we'll just take Ryan Reynolds over here and fuck the rest of it. Like, we don't need that. And this movie does the opposite. This movie triumphantly stands by Negasonic and Yukio and Vanessa and Colossus and Dopinder. Like, everybody carries over. And like, will they all be in Secret Wars? Probably not. Probably just going to be Wade and Wolverine squared. But it's like, so yeah.
Blind Al will personally kill the Beyonder.
I would be upset if she didn't.
Blind Al
with her little ankle gun. That was another great fucking line delivery. You call her Blind Al?
Yeah.
That's the shit I'm talking about, with like all of his like very grounded, like that is very problematic and fucked up, and I'm Wolverine, dude. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah. Wolverine, and I think it's the distinction too of like Wolverine is a like failure societally and like personally, but Wolverine is not an like insensitive moron, and I think that's what he's being confronted with here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was I talking about? Tying back into so like this ending with Paradox, and I agree with your commentary on him. Like, he does represent all that stuff, and he is sort of like, he doesn't think that anything that is not perfect has value. And even though perfect is entirely relative, so whether or not he's right about Nexus beings or not Nexus beings or anchor beings or whatever, we'll see if that's something that other projects use. Could have just been a nice thing for this movie to make the Wolverine stuff work. But I like the obviousness of it can't be one of you, it has to be both. Like, what could withstand this? Not just one of the greatest healing factors in comics, but both of the greatest healing factors in comics. And it made a lot of sense.
Let's not sleep on Juggernaut, whose healing factor does not kick in.
Who this Juggernaut is, like, out of every actor they got back, including Ray Park, who I didn't recognize. I didn't think
it Ray. I didn't see his name in the credits.
I've seen him credited other places, but I didn't I didn't see it in the credits. I don't know. Maybe he just did the stunts, or I don't know. But
I swear he's not been drinking.
But like the fact that it's obviously supposed to be Vinny Jones, but like they couldn't get Vinny Jones, but it's the same fucking helmet and everything is very funny. But
Yeah.
I
The
like
same way
what
they
they
had
come
like the
down to.
alternate
Like,
Bullseye. Like it was Bullseye and everything, but like
yeah,
you know, it was a black guy. It was but
yeah,
I
yeah.
liked seeing like it's a
But he
different
had the
Bullseye, yeah.
same. Yeah, exactly.
And the rattlesnake jacket.
Mm-hmm. But I like what they come down on thematically at the end of like, you know, the best way to save yourself is like saving others, like whatever the verbiage is. Like you do good for yourself by doing good for other people being the theme.
Yeah.
Sort of the redemptiveness of that for Logan. And also B-15 making the point of like, you know, they plea with they make their case to undo what happened in his world. And she's like,
You
but
couldn't
he
have said
wouldn't
it
be
this way.
this guy that could have done it if that didn't happen. Which is that I think that is the ultimate case against like the multiversal critics of like none of this matters, and it's like, but it matters to these versions. It's like you're gonna tell me after 2 seasons of Loki that didn't matter because that wasn't ever the prime Loki who died. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That show didn't fucking earn its emotional like place in this because it's an offshoot. Him and Sylvia are both offshoots. We saw the main one die in a fucking blockbuster film, and that was it. This is a completely different arc. Like I don't know. I think people are falling into the paradox thing of like, well, it doesn't matter because like the main version died in Logan. Well, it doesn't matter because of this, that, and the other thing. Like, why should I care if Andrew and Toby are in Spider-Man because their series never continued and everything. And it's like, but they can. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why Andrew catching her in that movie is so impactful because it's like we know, like, oh, he did keep growing after the last time we saw him.
Yeah.
And that just requires a level of engagement with story that is like honest to the text, and it's not telling you have to like it. You don't have to like it, but it's acting like it's not doing anything. Like I think the same critic who's like bullshit, shitty ass tweet I read earlier also said something, or maybe it was another pack that was like superhero movies for the last few years are just like not even playing with action figures, just looking at them. Like, do you remember as a kid just lining up your figures and saying, "Wow, these are my figures"? That's what these movies are like, and it's like it's just like you're absolutely on crack. You absolutely are. And it's only this like pundit class that does it.
Yeah. The group of people who go into films with the conceit of I already know I'm smarter than this. You know, it's like I wrote out a tweet and deleted it just because I couldn't quite find the phrasing. It is the same crowd of people who need Star Wars to tell you that fascism is bad for it to be politically coherent, and then look at the Mandalorian and don't go, "Oh, this is a story about like a diaspora a diaspora of people who like their culture has been shattered 1,000 times over, and in the wake of a vicious near genocide and wiping out, they're trying to figure out like who they are in a galaxy that has rejected them more times than we can count. And it's this one man's relationship with fundamentalism and how he may or may not take the best parts of his religion and pass it on to his child. But we just call that the Baby Yoda show because they don't say because there's not hookers and shooting cops and shit in the other one. But yeah, if I am to have one, it's not necessarily a major complaint. Um, but you know, rewatching the Deadpool movies this past weekend, as much as I hate saying this out loud, I am kind of coming over to your side, Alden, on Deadpool 2. Um, I love I I thought I had made peace with my interpretation of what it represents for Wade at the end of the movie to use Cable's time device and undo Vanessa. And I think part of that was because I thought him killing Baraka Pool and killing Ryan Reynolds for reading the Green Lantern screenplay and how funny I thought those beats were, that I forgot just how much the resurrection of Vanessa rubbed me the wrong way. And
I mean, for me, I'll let you finish, obviously, but like for me,
Well-
it's the fucking killing of Vanessa that rubbed me the wrong way. But then you spent a whole movie making it mean something, and then you walked it back. I felt
yeah,
jerked in both directions.
and that was the
won.
thing I was starting to like.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I agree with Alden now. Actually,
And
opinion
ironically,
developed
not to
on
be
me.
like, oh, what they should have done, because I fucking hate that. But in a private conversation with our friends in one of our chats, I said, if I was, going to tweak anything, I think they still could have had exactly the point they wanted to make, but have them break up at the beginning of the movie because he hasn't stopped being Merc with a mouse since the end of the first one. And they kind of did that in Deadpool Wolverine. Like,
I wish they had landed on the. I wish they had done more with why he and Vanessa broke up. Because there's a part of me that wishes that their breakup was a direct result of him saving her life. And that it's like, that it would begin to tee up the same thing with Wolverine, where it's, I can't undo what happened to you. That's why you're who you are. If you weren't where you are right now, we don't know if you could have, destroyed the Time Ripper and defeated Cassandra Nova. I wish they would have had an element like that here with Wade, where it was like, you made this choice to bring her back, and it did ultimately end in your relationship deteriorating. But you needed to lose the relationship in this way to grow and understand, like you were talking about earlier, with like fulfillment in and out of the relationship, to become a more fulfilled version of yourself, to maybe pick it back up. And I wish that there had been something where Vanessa was like, and they kind of get at it where like, Wade, you're stagnant, Wade, you're this, I can't keep doing this.
yeah.
And I wish that they had kind of hammered home that is a direct result of like, I had to grow and evolve as a person because I found out I actually died and now I didn't die. And I need to unpack that with like, you're still you. And I love you, but you're not youing in a way that is conducive to this. And I really do wish they had explored that a little bit more, because at the end of the day, like, it does, as much as I love Vanessa and I think the performance is very charming, and I find her so incredibly endearing, there is kind of this moment where it's like, Vanessa broke up with Wade and it ruined his life. And like that, it's one of the few moments in the movie that like are so emotionally engaging, where that feels just kind of, they broke up and Wade wants to get his girlfriend back again. And kind of hand wavy, that I was like, I feel like there was something there, especially because this was a direct result of fucking with the timeline.
Yeah, I wonder if, and I don't disagree with any of it. I just wonder if the issue that they would run into is that the emotional crux for Wade's personal wants and desires hinges on the fact that there's a rejection here immediately after the time travel when they were still together, and then that breeds the problem, and we need to do the time jump to get into the A plot, so that necessitates that all that stuff happens off, and it's a hard. I think if this same sequel gets made, in 2020, or 2019, if this is after Endgame instead of Far From Home or whatever the fuck, if this is early, around Loki season 1, it's so into it now. A whole multiverse phase went by before this one, that like that 6-year gap in story and in real world means that a lot of shit is going to happen.
Yeah.
Sort of off, like, even the growth of Peter from this random that he met for a day and then decided to save, just being merciful, is now the best friend. Like, you kind of just have to accept that too.
Yeah.
There are a couple there. The biggest thing that you have to just like accept, if we're really going to be like real nerds about it, and it's not a criticism because I don't understand. It's not a criticism of this film, because it wouldn't be fair to this film to say it. It's the fault of everyone from the Fox regime, and this film just has to kind of fucking deal with it. And that is this: Deadpool and Wolverine necessitates that you accept that the Deadpool films 1 and 2 are the same Earth as Logan.
Yeah.
which they
Yeah.
so
That is its own
obviously
bag
are
of
not,
cats.
which they so obvious that they are 10005 in the multiverse. And it's like, that is so fucking obviously not true, because Deadpool is, but it was already broken, which is why I don't hold it against this movie, because Deadpool 2 posits that its current day X-Men are the prequel X-Men, but they are still clearly physically the prequel X-Men. So that's like, is Deadpool in 2016 to 18, or is it in 1990 something? I don't know. And then so you got all that broken out, and then
you got to do a conversation about diegetic music and what's playing at the strip club in Deadpool 1 and how they're playing a Flow Rida song if it's 1999.
Yeah, which I wasn't even gonna go there, Jared. That's the nerdiest fucking thing I've ever heard. You should retire.
How dare you?
You're never gonna be more nerdy than that. In Nerd Academy, you completed it. It's over.
Oh no, baby. I got more in me.
The thing I'm getting at is, like, on top of the Deadpool and the prequel X-Men First Class cast somehow sharing a world, you also ended Days of Future Past by showing me that the present day is positive, right? When then suddenly Logan is the result of a present day, but it can't possibly be the result of anything we've seen, prequel, original Singer Ratner films, or the blending with First Class or Deadpool, because that's 2024 and a mutant hasn't been born in like 20 some years. So Logan can't be a part of any of them. Deadpool can't be a part of the ones that it is supposedly a part of. Oh, I don't even want to get into Origins Wolverine, because that fucked it from the get. Because in X1, the original in 2000, they say that Xavier and Magneto literally built that school together, which is not the case. So it's already broken. So it's not a hard ask for MCU to come around and be like, would you? It feels like Fahey whispered in my ear. It's like he was sitting next to me and was like, Alden, this is Kevin.
Did you see my hat?
Did you see my hat? I have another one ready for Thunderbolts. Did you see all these X movies? And then I'll be like, yeah, Kevin, of course I did. Would you be willing to accept that they all happened on the same world, just so we can do this one? And I'd be like, yeah, Kevin, that's fine. Like, or at least Deadpool and Logan. That somehow Deadpool, Negasonic, and everybody are having. It's like they live in a New York that is entirely protected, and everywhere else is like verging on Mad Max.
So the way I kind of rectified that in my mind was an event similar to the film Logan took place. Where,
but Jared, it's in a mutantless wastelandish
but Deadpool
fucking
never
America.
says that. Deadpool never says that. Deadpool never says it's a mutantless wasteland. All he says is,
but it is.
He sacrificed
We've seen
himself.
Logan.
We see clips from Logan. Those clips could be devoid of context.
But they are. That is the movie Logan, though.
That is the movie Logan. I was just like, oh, okay.
I know what you're trying to say, but
the ending of Logan happened.
But it's like the ending of Logan wouldn't happen if it wasn't battling people that specifically eradicated. Like, there can't be a fucking X-Man show with Colossus and Negasonic while simultaneously Richard E. Grant is like, I used
maybe it's not
pharmaceuticals to.
Maybe he didn't sterilize the mutants and all of that jazz. Like, maybe it was just, they're doing this weird cloning shit, and I have my clone daughter in X-23, and I save her, and I sacrifice myself doing it, and I also died in North Dakota, and I had my little X cross on my grave. Like, I was like, and there's also all the weirdness of, like, the fourth walliness, and how for Wade it's a fourth wall break, but for Paradox it's like sincere multiversal bullshit. It is very confusing. I was able to reverse engineer my way into like accepting it, but
I absolutely accept it, because to not accept it would be to just betray. Like, I've been working through this shit for 20 some years at this point. Like,
yeah,
the second we got to the end of Origins in 2009 and de-aged Xavier was in the woods waiting to pick up this weird roster that includes an Emma Frost who is half indigenous and is also not the Emma Frost that was also in the 60s, who is January Jones, and a Scott who was somehow there, but
and
is also
who I did not
and a
notice until
Quicksilver,
watching
yeah.
it with my resident Quicksilver stand.
And a Quicksilver, yes, who's like buzzing around in his cell. There's a Scott there who's also not the Scott that is it. It's broken, man. It's broken.
It's busted. It's ass busted, but we
It's
love
not
it.
coming back. But that's my biggest thing is that it just like similar to the relationship, similar to Peter, similar to pretty much where we are with him. Similar to the fact that like, I mean, it even kind of requires you to make an ask, or to not make an ask, but it asks you to make a concession in terms of Cable had a time device, and for the events of this movie to make sense, you kind of just have to accept that it can also change worlds, which like is not a
Yeah.
thing in Deadpool 2.
When we came out of the movie the first time, we had to take a sit down moment, we being the people I saw it with, and they were like, I understood everything about the time jumping bullshit and world jumping bullshit except the very beginning of the movie. What the fuck was going on? And I was like, essentially they were saying that Cable's thing from Deadpool 2
also
because it
did
was time traveling.
dimensions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like hopped him to 616 and like it's Deadpool. Fourth wall, he knows how to do it. Sure. Like we're there.
Yeah. I liked the framing of it too with Happy. I know we touched on him just like seeing him again, but like I think it was a smart way to establish sort of what the emotional arc was of Happy being like, just adjust your expectations and all that. And Favreau's a great comedic actor, and it was also a low key way to get Favreau in a movie where he couldn't play his Foggy Nelson in a way that makes any sense. But he's there. Yeah, I think all that really worked. I think the action in the film is great. I mentioned up top that I wanted to mention needle drops. I think
I'm glad you brought that up because
yeah.
I have something to say about that.
Oh, go on. You start.
Listen, especially coming off of a Deadpool movie rewatch. How did you stingy motherfuckers not let X Gon Give It To You be in this goddamn movie?
Isn't it though?
It's not. It's
Not
not
even like archivally or something?
No, not at all. There is no X Gon Give It To You. Now, don't get me wrong. T.I.'s Bring 'Em Out, that was a welcome surprise.
Bring 'Em Out. Look. Let's back up for a second. First of all, I don't think I'd heard it in years. I can't remember the last time it was used in anything, movies or TV or games or whatever. So it's been a long time.
Woo! And I went,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's been a long time since I've heard the song. It's one of those things where it's like when you just, it's like I did this with Multiverse of Madness a lot, where it's like when you say what happens out loud, you realize how awesome it is. Like in Multiverse of Madness, it was a dead wizard corpse gets possessed by that wizard who's traveling realities via his dreams, and then the zombie comes alive and goes to fight this evil witch on a forbidden mountain. That way the teenage girl can punch a hole in the universe. Like shit just sounds wild.
On a cloak made of the souls of the damned.
Yeah, it's electric guitar, Danny Elfman, like it's amazing. This is one of those, but in like a decidedly dumber way, but still wonderful, where it's like imagine, if you will, what is it, like a Honda Accord? Like I can't remember what the
Honda Odyssey.
Honda Odyssey. Yeah, imagine, if you will, a Honda
That's
Odyssey.
That's going to be a trivia question in the next Geekverse exhibition in Epic Confrontations. Let me tell you.
Probably.
No, the question's going to be what was the car that Wade is trying to sell over the Honda Odyssey
that he hates,
but
or the one thing he hates the Odyssey.
Kia.
Yeah.
She only said Kia, which is the funny thing. So I would not write that question because she does not specify what Kia it was.
No, he does. I'm pretty sure he says it while they're test driving. I'm like 90%.
I think the dad. Yeah, I think whatever dad it was like asks about a model or something.
It doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah, it doesn't suck. God, that's good. But yeah, so you got a Honda Odyssey, and you got Elektra, you got Laura Wolverine, you got actual Wolverine in the truck, you got Gambit in live action, you got Wesley Snipes' Blade with a bazooka that he got off of one of the Punishers, and you got fucking Bring 'Em Out playing while they drive in, and Wolverine doesn't get out of the trunk until the chorus comes back around again. That way he can get an awesome slow-mo moment. It's just it's like sensational use of that song. It's a great moment.
sensational. And that's his word.
Yes. And InSync's amazing at the beginning. Iris, oh my god, using Iris when they fucking came out of the reactor and everything is like, I love and prefer the diegetic, like it means something to the characters, way that James Gunn sort of popularized, like, and really is the only one that has done very well. He also does it in Peacemaker. Suicide Squad, it's not diegetic, but they're still picked really well. Peacemaker, there is a Motley Crue song that is specifically part of the story. And I will always like that. Can't always do that. But yeah, these are all picked really, really well. I mean, Madonna, like the resurgence that song is having just from an extremely violent scene, is great. I will say though, I'm pushing back on your X gonna give it to you, not because like I dislike it, because certainly I do not, but I think because of one that sort of became like, oh, is that like his sort of like theme? But like it's really not. Like one also had just as much shoop in the marketing and everything.
Sure, but it's like Wade gets a "we're about to fuck shit up" moment. He gets a "I am with my people." Like he has
Yeah.
his moment where he has accepted his comrades in arms, and we lead in with X Go and Give It to You. We get it in the second one too. And for me, everything you said about Bring 'em Out, I think applies even better to X Go and Give It to You. Like if they're having that moment in the lead up with Blade with the bazooka, and you have X Go and Give It to You, that's going. And I think it hits even harder now that fucking Wolverine is here and half of this team, more than half of this team, is made up of mutants. That if you have that the second time the chorus rolls around, Wolverine crawls out of the trunk and pops his claws at X gon' give it to you, especially like that more epic orchestral part of the chorus they did where like it's kind of stringy and it has all of those like big like cinematic orchestral sweeps. To have X gon' give it to you with the X-Man, as Wade says, I
Yeah.
think as a musical beat, X Gonna Give It To You would have hit harder. That's just me.
It's
That's
cool.
just me.
I get it. I also understand that X and X are both X. I get it.
X equals X equals X.
But yeah, I just don't care that much. But I understand what you're saying. Um, trying to think if there's anything else musically or like score wise that really stuck out that I want to talk about.
I love the music when the Resistance shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know if those were like distinctive themes, but like that was just so cool. Like as Elektra, Blade, and Gambit all walk into the room, especially that like that hits whenever Blade comes out, I was like, oh, fuck. I am
I
very Deadpool.
definitely
I'm touching myself tonight.
I needed to see the movie again because every single one of those slow-mo movements I was ready to be played off as a joke in a way
Yeah.
that none of them were. Like I'm glad they weren't because the
And that would have been
characters felt
that would have been really easy to do too.
yeah, and like everything felt respected in a way that like then leads credence again to the theme of the film being paying respects to what built us up to this point of like yeah, Gambit could have been shot in the head the moment he said it's my time to shine, and we would have been like people would have laughed. But it
Yeah.
means a lot more that he got to do a thing and they have this cool moment beforehand. So the second time I was watching, I got to like relax and just kind of sink into those moments a little more, which was nice.
Yeah. Big agree. Big agree on that, Trav. But yeah, no, I did really love this movie. And I also on the topic of Cassandra Nova, I meant to say this earlier. Um, and you talk Alden about the like she has her like brief moment of clarity of
Mm-hmm.
that like Xavier, he would have come back for you. Again, it's just one of those things I love is when the antagonist of a story actively refuses the lesson
Mm-hmm.
and that is their undoing. That's just one of those specific little nuggets for me that will always land. It will always land for me when the villain gets themselves killed because they actively refuse to learn the lesson that the heroes have, and her going like, "Oh wow, like I don't have to be this like Malthusian lunatic here in the void. Like there might be something out there for me, and B, like, you know, so much of that, her whole core is I was rejected and therefore must destroy in protest of my rejection. Well, a lot. I like that was just a specific beat I really love. That she is what happens when you let the rejection consume you, and that your identity becomes annihilation. That really worked for me.
Yeah, I think it's again, people for better or worse, and like you guys are all gonna handle more coverage on Robert Doomey and everything that's happening, but like whether you like the multiversal stuff or not is irrelevant to the fact that it is the story that they're telling, and it's not done yet. So they've got to keep unpacking and exploring it. Like again, it's like I'm not a Fast and Furious guy. I saw one of those movies that didn't hook me, therefore I did not continue with it. People always have that option, which I think they forget that they have this option. But it's like, to tell the story, you gotta fucking tell it. And they are continuing to do that, where every time they've done these multiversal stories, it is the same concepts, a lot of sweeping principles, a lot of shared locations and concepts, like the void, like I forget its name, but the dragon-esque entity that sort of sweeps the void.
Eliath.
Eliath, yeah. Like these are recurring things now. Loose rules when needed, which is smart. Like the fact that what I think is one of their most brilliant moves of some variants look like the actor and some don't. I think that's very freeing. And it's always different. Like all Spider-Men seem to look different. All Doctor Stranges look like Benedict Cumberbatch. The Lokis are about half and half. The Wolverines are mostly Hugh except one that we've seen. I think it's smart to have that. It would have been a nice rule to remember when dealing with your villain plan. I think you could have maybe smoothed things over pretty fucking easily. To be honest, you could have just continued your Kang plan, but whatever. Part of that is showing us how characters react to this stuff differently. And I think the void and the idea of being tossed aside have been explored in Loki in redemptive ways, like of old Loki finally rising to his full glorious purpose, like he does, or classic Loki, whatever they call them. And then Sylvie obviously riding this line and having all this conflict, and the Spider-Men obviously using the opportunity in their multiversal journey to mentor Tom Holland's version, and like Peter stopping him from killing Norman, and like Andrew being able to save the day. Like there's all these ways to explore it. But with that, sort of like the Force in Star Wars, like you got to also have fuck ups. You got to also have people that get it wrong.
Yes.
You got to have people that don't see the multiverse as this thing that can teach them something. It's a thing that makes it fucking worse. And Cassandra is one of those people. Paradox is one of those people to a lesser degree, of like they're able to do anything and it just makes them worse. They don't get better like Loki does. Not everyone can. Not everyone can come in and like know exactly what they need to do in a story or say the right thing the way that Laura does. You need people that are wrong, which, not to get into the Robert Downey conversation, but I think that that's part of it. Like, I don't think I firmly do not think that it is straight up Victor. I just don't think that. I don't think this is we're not going into fucking Eddie Murphy territory where like you could just play multiple roles and no one's gonna bat an eye. I know they've done that. No one jumped down my throat. I'm aware of Michelle Yeoh. I'm aware of Alfred Woodard, but like, let's be real.
Chan, yeah.
There's a caliber of role that we're talking about here. Much smaller characters, and also oftentimes under makeup and everything.
Yeah,
I do think that a Stark variant who is in some way Victor, or is named Victor or whatever, but would have been that world's 20, whatever they do, I think will be the end point of this fucking point, which is that it can go so wrong. But at the same time, who are we building off to the side and is also confirmed to be in both movies? Reed, and therefore the family. And we've already seen Krasinski's Reed be a key player in the multiverse. And so it's like now we have Pedro's Reed from this alternate 60s, not from here. Could this alternate 60s have a really classic, cheesy sort of Latvian dictator? Like, maybe. That seems like the kind of world that would. I don't know. But I just think that Deadpool and Wolverine, to tie it back into the movie, is sort of reminding us like that this should be fun, and that you should have fun with the questions, not get mad that the questions exist. Um,
I
and
like that. I
like,
like that a lot.
I think that's a big part of it. Like, it is a movie that is here to say, yes, we're going to explore all the stuff that this saga is doing, these canon rules, these things, give you a specific Loki episode to go watch, like do all of these things
Loki
that are
season
so
1, episode 5.
intricate. Yeah, so intricately tied to everything, but is also making the point that we've loved in this conversation of, it doesn't really matter that much though. Like, you could still just pick and choose what you like. And it counts. If your Spider-Man is Toby, guess what? He counts. We saw he did. Like, whatever Loki you like that he died in Infinity War, and that was the story that you enjoyed, and you like it being over. Great, it is over. If you like this though, you can go over here. And you always have the option to start and stop wherever you want. And I think, there's the real world like coolness of like Secret Wars. We'll probably see Toby and Hugh Jackman meet, and like how weird that'll be, and like, yeah, it'll probably happen, but it doesn't mean that Tom Holland's matters less, or that they're giving the spotlight to an unofficial or like a previous like cameos. But it's limiting to be thinking in these like labels.
I agree with you completely. And I think that's just about as good as a bow as we're gonna get for this conversation. So yeah. And to hear me and Travis's thoughts on Robert Downey Jr., be sure to tune in tonight at 6:30 for our live stream San Diego Comic-Con news roundup. A tradition. I was like, let's bring it back. Let's do a live roundup again because that was fun last time. But yeah, Alden, where can the lovely people find you and all that you do, dear friend?
You can find me probably in a different universe, less depressed, but alas, we're in this one. So Octo Radio has been on hold for a couple months. It's coming back soon. I'm feeling better about bringing it back now that Casually Talk is winding down, which is the other show that I host and do with Ken Knapsack as our executive producer, doing Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings coverage. So House of the Dragon season 2 reviews have been going great. Jared's called into those, and will again, and that's been really cool. And we'll do Rings of Power season 2 in August. Anytime with
Thank
Ken
you
and
for being
Alden.
gentle with me, by the way, because I was like excited to talk Thrones, but it's like I can't hold court on Thrones the way I can with Marvel or Star Wars. So thank you for being gentle with me.
There's no levels, man. I haven't read most of that shit. I think people forget that. I've read one Game of Thrones book. So it's like a lot of my knowledge is also research based. But in any case, anytime with Ken and Alden is Fridays, 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern. So
My
that's
favorite lunch break
anytime.
show.
Lots of radio. Thank you. Casually Talk. Obviously, Ionized Bastards just finished season 2, the actual play RPG that Jared and I both play in on all remaining systems. Check that out if you love Star Wars. And In a Galaxy Trivia is ongoing. So there's always shit. There's always shit.
There's lots of shit. There's lots of shit. I will also be plugging Ionized Bastards as well once we get to me. But Travis, where can the lovely people find you, brother?
In the void, I guess. I don't post things much anymore. It hurts, man. I don't wanna. I just
It
don't wanna.
exacts a heavy toll.
It does.
That's fair. I get it.
Yeah. I'll retweet the occasional thing. That's about it.
I respect it. I respect it.
Jared,
Yeah.
where?
You know, Kaysen has started doing that on KNR.
Good. Someone
But
needs to.
as much as I love Kaysen, it's not quite the same when he does it. You guys can find me personally at Dark Jedi 2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast. I'm jumping up past all of my individual plugs like Ionized Bastards. As Alden said, the season 2 finale just dropped this past Friday. We're going to be doing a live kind of Q&A style discussion about the first 2 seasons in the next couple weeks here. And then in the next couple months, we're going to be starting the final season of Ionized Bastards. Alden, Daily Bugle style, give me 3 words about the finale. Spoiler free.
Blood. Worthiness. And I don't know. Trying to think of a good third word. Hard to say. Hard to say what the third word would be. I don't know. I don't want to say friendship because no shit.
It's D&D of some variety. Of course, it's about the power.
Yeah,
of
I
friendship.
just I don't know. Blood for sure. I think worthiness is a big thing. And anxiety. That would be the other one. Stress. I mean, no, it's not spoilers to say, like, in 2 seasons of doing this RPG campaign, we've never had a fight, literally, not in a dramatic way, but like literally we've never had one this difficult in terms of like the actual gameplay got really, really bad for a hot minute. So
yeah, it was the single scariest episode of this show for the party. And that is counting the time that we almost lost Jerry within a turn. A single turn of combat nearly killed 4044. And this time around, it got just as fucking hairy for your favorite galactic fuck ups. So go watch both seasons of Ionized Bastards on the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel. We are all so proud of this show. I get to make a Star Wars with some of my best friends, and I'm excited. I'm excited for one last ride with the Bastards. I'm bittersweet about it, but there are more Star Wars RPGs to come over at All Remaining Systems. Obviously, Epic Confrontations. There's some really cool stuff coming out of teams and singles in the near future, so check that out. And then I'm over on Pro and Noob with Mitch from the Comic Book Cast on the Mitch692 YouTube channel, where he's taking me through Neon Genesis Evangelion one episode at a time, and that drops on Fridays. So go check that out. I am slowly losing my sanity with Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yeah, Travis, you and Levi both have been loving watching me watch it from a distance and watching me just slowly deteriorate.
I have not personally watched Evangelion, but I know, just like culturally, I'm aware, if that makes sense. So I know what you're in for.
I know nothing. I'm halfway through the show. I knew nothing going in, and I feel like I know less now that I'm halfway through.
And you're going to know less by the end, my friend. Are you going to watch any of the movies?
Yep. We're doing all the movies. We're doing all of Evangelion.
Don't worry. It gets, as you go, you'll never figure it out. That's the only thing I know.
Joe, you disgust me. You're descending down from a certain tier of nerd to like a lesser nerd. I just want you to know that.
What's that supposed to mean?
By going through, like, Evangelion nerds are like nerds among nerds. Like they're like I don't even know what to call it. They're like lowborn. They're commoners.
They're lowborn.
Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like, it's just like such a level of sweaty that like you could be at a comic book store having like a deep cut conversation about like superheroes or fantasy or anything like that, or any genre film, classic science fiction, Star Trek, whatever. And then like off in an even dustier ass corner, there's an Evangelion conversation going on.
You know where I had all of my Evangelion discussions? I had it at Warhammer 40k night, which I don't play, but I went to because it was also wing night at Dino's across the street. So I'd go hang out with some friends that played 40k who were also into Evangelion, because of course they were.
I
went
like
everything
to
about that
night because it was Dino's wing night.
Across the street
is the most Nerd Academy sentence of all fucking time.
I would go
is the most Latrobe Nerd Academy.
Not that he was playing Warhammer; he was going to get wings.
No, I'm not rich. Dino's. Yeah. No, I would go. I'd play with their tape measures when it wasn't their turn, because you need tape measures to play 40k, and they get mad at me because I would hit something on the board, and then we'd go get wings.
Incredible.
Phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. But yeah, so watch me become a lowborn on Pro and Noob.
Disgusting.
When you do One Piece, man, hit us up. We'll be there.
Oh God, Mitch has said that he has no idea how he would even begin to tackle One Piece. I know
You
when
couldn't
we're
in a
done with-
reasonable time. You just
I know
couldn't.
after we're done with Evangelion, we're gonna do a reversal season where I'm going to show Mitch something for the first time, and keeping it anime adjacent, I'm going to be showing him the Tartakovsky Clone Wars for the first time.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be a fun little two-parter. And then I know we're gonna do. He wants to do a movie, like a standalone movie. So we're gonna do Akira, and then we're gonna do Cowboy Bebop. I think are the next like boom boom.
Now,
boom,
see,
boom.
those things make you cooler. That's how you
They'll even out.
climb back
They'll
out.
even out.
Yeah, that's how you climb out of the hole.
This is my resurrection.
Hot people love those.
I've only seen a couple episodes of Bebop, and I really fucking liked it.
It was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have told me that Bebop is like 1,000% my shit.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so check that out. And then you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. And on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you would like to get your hands on some TNAP merch, go ahead and click that student store link.
T-public.com.
Speaking of that merch, folks, it's on sale again. Get the Cookie Cop shirt, guys. I finally made the Cookie Cop shirt. I was told make a Cookie Cop shirt, and I finally did it. And it's cursed, and it's hideous. Fucking buy it. I promise people won't think you're weirdly pro-cop.
Propaganda.
I focus grouped this shirt. People do not think it's pro-cop. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I asked a bunch of my coworkers, if you saw somebody wearing this on the street, would you think they liked cops? And they said no.
Yeah, but
I'd just be confused.
Your coworkers couldn't analyze their way out of a brown paper bag. And you expect me to believe that they have takes about visual media of any kind, including shirts?
In an off-the-record, off-recording conversation, when Alden said that the shirt looks like propaganda and thin blue line bullshit, Alden made one of my favorite Alden jokes of all time.
Did I?
Because a couple weeks before that, there was a pair of Jordans that I put on hold that accidentally, and I'm going to put that in big fucking air quotes for anybody listening to the episode, accidentally got sold. And I had to stop myself from throwing a fucking temper tantrum. Because I really wanted them. They were my favorite shade of blue, and it pissed me the fuck off. And they were hard to get Jordans. They were going for like $300 on resale, and I was not touching it. I get my shit for 30% off, period. I don't pay retail for shit. And I was fucking livid. And eventually they did end up getting those shoes for my discount. It was whatever. But I told Alden, I said, a bunch of my coworkers looked at the Cookie Cop shirt and they said it doesn't look like propaganda. And Alden said a version of the joke he just made, but he said, these people could not read and understand a note that says, for Jarod, do not sell. And you think they could understand critical analysis?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have to know how to read to know that the shirt isn't propaganda. They just have to like perceive image.
It's vibes. It's vibes.
They just have to be able to digest symbols.
What's the aura of the shirt?
God.
Read a note
Anyway.
that says, for Jarod, don't sell.
That's a
You know what?
shirt.
I hope people buy your propaganda shirt. I hope that's what you get for everyone you know this year for Christmas as a stocking stuffer, as a TNAP cop shirt.
Why do you have to say it like TNAP cop shirt?
Is that inaccurate?
Yes.
What show is this?
The Nerd Academy podcast.
That's TNAP. And what is this man's profession?
Demon?
Represent our evil eldritch mascot with this new vintage style t-shirt.
All right. We need to wrap this shit up, Jared. Take us home, Jared.
And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to Paco, Ray Clausen, and Keandre Lloyd. Like I said earlier, guys, catch us later tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time as we unpack everything from San Diego Comic-Con. go follow Alden on all the things and listen and watch all of his stuff. We will be back soon with a House of the Dragon season review, probably, depending on how schedules line up. So stay tuned for that. Lots of cool stuff coming down the pipeline for the Versus series as well. So thank you all so very much for joining us. We will see you all later tonight, and class dismissed.